Hey Westwood Kids team, this is Jenny. Thank you for tuning in for part 2 of our series of videos this week where we're focusing on how to keep our Westwood kids safe. Yesterday I hope you got to watch that video and we talked about what you do if you suspect abuse. We're all thinking about the Penn State situation and who reported what to who. And what we went over yesterday was if you suspect something or observe something at church, what we need you to do is directly go to me or one of the other staff members at Westwood and report your suspicions and work with us so that we can report what needs to be reported. We are mandatory reporters, those of us that work on staff, so that's something that we will have to handle. And the reason that we ask that you come to us is so that we can do all we can to protect all of the families that are involved. So that's what we discussed yesterday. Today we're going to talk about probably one of the most icky subjects as related to dealing with kids, and that's how do we identify abuse. So we're going to talk about a few characteristics, but the big thing and the hardest thing to remember is just because we see one of these signs of abuse doesn't mean a child is being abused. Even if we see a couple of them, it doesn't necessarily mean that. But if we see a lot of these combined, or God shows us other red flags as we deal with these children, they could be things that manifest themselves. And I say that just to help us all remember, even when we're being sensitive to this subject, it's easy to jump to conclusions. I know a few weeks ago my child told my mother that she gets spanked 12 times a day. Not necessarily true. So sometimes we've got to remember that kids, just because kids say something, doesn't mean that it's necessarily abuse. We've just really got to work hard to be observant and to pray and to be discerning and try to figure out what's going on in a child's life to an extent. Now, the deal with being a mandatory reporter is that it is not our job to really figure it out and to investigate it and to be the police in the situation. Our job is to report it. At the same time, even reporting such an incident can have such devastating effects to a family. We have a responsibility to make sure that we are reporting something that has some validity to it. So all that being said, let's talk about some signs of abuse. Some signs of physical abuse would be unusual bruises, welts, maybe burns or broken bones, fractures, and especially if you see this over and over and over again. Frequent injuries, often that are described as accidental, and usually accidents that don't make a lot of sense. That's a huge red flag that we need to pay attention to. These kids may wear concealing clothes to hide these injuries. They may have a turtleneck and long sleeves in the middle of summertime. These children may either really seek for affection and attention from you, the adult, or they will be very difficult to get along with. They don't want to have anything to do with you and are even fearful of adults. Emotional abuse may manifest itself in children just really being different in a lot of ways. They may be self-destructive, they may be apathetic, they may throw tantrums or be impulsive, they may act very much like a grown-up. You may hear them mimic things that are being hurt that they hear at their home in the way that they talk to other people. They may be frightened to try new things, like overly frightened to try new things, or to step out and be creative or do something outside of the norm because they may be fearful of other people's reactions. Signs of sexual abuse usually show up within our environment by kids saying or do something that's highly inappropriate and they really don't even realize it. Other signs include torn or stained underwear, pain or itching in private areas, but a lot of times within our hour or whatever that we're with them in children's ministry, we're not going to see those things. But what may pop up is them just saying something that's totally inappropriate or touching someone in a way that's totally inappropriate, and they really don't get that that's bad. Another thing that is very likely to happen is as you're a small group leader and you're building relationship and trust with a kid, there could be that random day where they decide you're the safe person that they're going to tell that they're being hurt in some way. And if that happens, you need to love them, encourage them, and then help seek out and get them help. Kids often don't know, again, we've got to be cautious, kids often don't know exactly how to express what's going on either side of it. You could have a 5th grade girl who's really mad at her daddy that day and comes into small group and says that daddy just scares her when he gets mad. Now that's concerning, and we need to explore that a little bit more. But if a child sits you down and says, you know, daddy slaps me or broke my arm last week, or daddy touches me or something like that, we're not going to ask a whole lot of questions about that, and we're going to go ahead and report it. I hope that last part feels as clear as mud, but that's really how it is. As we're dealing with kids, the biggest thing that we can do is pray for discernment. Pray that if there's something going on in these lives with kids, that God will make it clear to us. And again, our job is not to be the investigators. Our job is to protect these kids and to protect families and to love them. So thank you for investing in children. Thank you for encouraging them. If you have a child that you're concerned about, err on the safe side and talk to one of us and let us help you walk through and help us discern a little bit more about what's going on, if that's something we need to take to another level. Thank you for loving our kids. Thank you for loving our Jesus. Have a great day. Bye-bye.